Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and I'm off screen at the moment because I think you'd rather be looking at this than staring at my hideous mug. So what is this exactly? This is Godzilla 94, which has made its semi-debut on kaijufile.com. I'll have a link down in the description if you really want to see it for yourselves, which I assume most of you do. But what is Godzilla 94, you may be wondering? Well, in case you've missed it somehow, Godzilla 94 is one of those great unproduced films. This was supposed to be the first attempt at a live-action American Godzilla movie prior to the 98 film. It had all sorts of big names attached to it. It had a script planned out. It had concept designs and maquettes of everything. But it never actually went anywhere. And eventually Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin took over, and we all know how that turned out. So for a long time it was considered one of those things that was lost to time. I'm sure we would have eventually got to the point where people even started to wonder if it was real. But it was real, and apparently, according to the cover at least, Terry Rossio, Ted Elliott, and Todd Tennant, with Eldon Arnett, who apparently didn't want the name that big on there, they decided to, I guess somehow they got their hands on what it would have been like, and they adapted it to a graphic novel form. Now, in case you're wondering, it's 100% digital. That's why you're looking at a computer screen right now. They apparently shopped it around to different publishers for a physical release. Didn't work, so they're just uploading it online at roughly 10 to 13 pages per every 2 weeks. So this will probably be an ongoing thing for me, looking and seeing how it goes. But as you can imagine, since this is only the first 13 pages, I'll just skip to the end and you can see pages 12 through 13. That doesn't necessarily mean that I can look at this and give you a really good idea of my full thoughts. Because, I mean, it's only the first 12 to 13 pages out of something that's going to be over 200 pages. That's a drop in the bucket, not really enough to give you a sense of anything like character development or plot progression or the monsters themselves or anything. So can't really comment too much on that. I will say that as far as things like dialogue go, there's nothing necessarily that's awful to me, certainly. I mean, it's okay dialogue so far. Nothing that makes me cringe or roll my eyes or want to bash my brains in with a hammer. But again, can't really say anything about how the characters are developing or how the plot is progressing because it's only the first few seconds, basically, if this were a movie, of the story. So what can I comment on exactly? Well, there are a couple of things. Let's start with the layout, since this is a comic book form after all. I know that comics can be kind of difficult for some people to read, depending on how they're formatted. Because, you know, sometimes you run into the problem of, well, what order do I read these panels in or anything? This one, the layout of each page is fairly easy to read. They have a logical progression to each of the panels. You can tell what order things are supposed to go in. There's no real problem with that. But let's move on to the artwork, because the artwork is the other thing that really stands out here. And as you can tell, it's rendered all digitally. There's no hand-drawn stuff here. And while there certainly is a level of skill that goes into it, I don't know, maybe I'm just not used to it yet, but I'm not entirely sold on the art style just yet. I mean, you're looking at it for yourselves. So you can probably draw your own conclusions, but I think what's getting me is that it's falling into that realm of the uncanny valley. It's like it's trying to be photorealistic and three-dimensional, but it's not quite getting there, and therefore it still looks like a semi-cartoony kind of thing while still trying to look real. Like, okay, these two images of this guy, they almost look like photographs that just have filters thrown over them. This looks more like it's supposed to be a drawing. This looks like it's taken from a early 2000s video game. You can see what I'm talking about, right? It's kind of weird to look at. I'm not entirely sure if it's just me. I don't know. It just doesn't look right somehow. Hopefully it'll change when we get to the monsters, because you look at the cover, it's done in that same style, and admittedly, it's not a shot of Godzilla that gives us too much of what he looks like, but he looks okay here. So why we have this sort of weird issue inside with the people, I hope that maybe it gets better as it goes on. Since we're on this page right here, I will say something else that's kind of weird, is that it looks like the script direction occasionally made its way onto the page when it probably shouldn't have. Like, look down here in this section. It says, "The helicopter lifts. Tina stands alone in the shadows of the porch, looking very small and alone." Okay, I could have derived that just from looking at the panel, which is composed in such a way as to emphasize that, so why is that there? I'm not entirely sure, but, you know, it's not like it's a huge distraction. It only happens a couple of times. So I do want to see how this progresses. I mean, like I said, only 13 pages, that's counting the cover, out of a 200-page story. That's very much at the very beginning. We still got a long way to go before we can see what this actually turns out to be. And if it does well, who knows? Maybe someone will pick it up for a physical release. That sort of thing has happened before. I'm assuming there might still be licensing issues, but you never know. But anyway, still intrigued. There are a couple of flubs, but nothing is perfect after all. So, like I said, there are links down in the description if you want to see this for yourselves. And you can share your thoughts on it once you've read it in the comment section down below. So until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.